So I love it. I love it. Let me ask you this:
Mm-hmm.
can white leaders lead multi-ethnic churches?
I struggle with that one a lot. I've gone back and forth because there are some good models. I mean, you had my good friend on this podcast, David Swanson.
Swanson,
And
my man. Shout out to Swanson.
And a big shout out to him because he's really unique in some ways. I guess my answer would be yes, but there's a lot of caveats to it.
I like that you struggle with that though.
My struggle is, look, I'm sharing from experience as well as I think there's data out there.
Right on.
When we were planting our church in D.C. called Peace Fellowship, and I left a church on Capitol Hill that was largely white, and I had become the lead pastor of that church and faced, well, basically racism.
Yeah.
And I wound up resigning. I was only 40 years old. I didn't know how to fight all of this by myself, and I felt like I was alone. And after I left, a lot of people left that church. They were disappointed that I left. They didn't all come with me. They all just left. And for about 9 months, I didn't know what I was going to do. I was finishing up my PhD. But we wound up planting another church. And several of those white folks, some of them who really connected with me, wanted to come. And we had a big conversation where we were discouraging that because we said, here we are in this African-American neighborhood. If we're going to have like 100 white people come into the neighborhood, it's going to really change things and maybe send a different kind of message to our community. And when we were really, when I say we, this is now a small core of us at the beginning, we had some hard conversations about this. And one person just said straight out, look, white people always take over. And there was that sense, and I have felt it in my experience. I didn't want to like declare it as true for all time, but it really did have that feeling. And we said, if we're coming to serve this community, then let's make sure that the leadership of this church reflects this community and sets a good example for this community. Mm-hmm. So we said, everybody's welcome, but you have to respect our context. And we had some white people who left, when they, for whatever reason, some did articulate their reasons, but it was a struggle for us back then. But we came to the conclusion that our geographic context there in the southeast part of D.C. was that we did not need a church led by white people. Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah.
Because of the temptation to take over.
Yeah, and I saw it. I mean, it's been my life experiences, and I'm in my 60s now, and it's over and over again. I mentioned this in the book too, but there's that scene in the first Black Panther movie when they're trying to get King T'Challa is incapacitated. I'm not going to give that away, but I'm sure everybody saw it. But anyway,
but you ain't seen Black Panther.
Yeah, right. But the royal family has come to get help from the Jabari tribe, and M'Baku is sitting on the throne. And of course, right when they try to plead their case, it's the white guy who speaks up first. Agent Ross, he starts talking, and M'Baku starts, banging his staff, and they start barking, and they drown him out. And I was like, yes, because part of me that's been my experience. Even though everybody there is black except for the one white guy, and he's the one who's going to talk. And that's been my experience. So that's what I mean by white folks taking over. There's almost this assumption, and not that it's calculated, it's just been built into our society. The assumption that the white guy is the leader, the white person, mostly a man, is going to be the one in charge, and we have to defer. Now, I know of models of white pastors leading in black neighborhoods. The question I would have is how empowered those people are really in that church. And that's always an open question for me.
Yeah. So what are you gonna? So I do got a lot of buddies who are passionate about multi-ethnic.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's not Swanson. That dude.
Right. Yeah.
He's gonna get kicked out of the Caucasian
he better not.
assembly. Okay. But
I thought
what
you were
would
going to
you
say the denomination. I'm like, you better not.
No, not the denomination. No, we got love for Covenant. Yeah. But what do you say to my white friends who are like, hey, I believe, and I got white buddies who have got really, really great multi-ethnic churches.
Okay.
And I think they have great postures, but, what would you say to them? Do you have anything? If not, it's cool.
I think the basic question I'm asking is, from whom are you willing to learn and submit yourself? So sometimes I see white young leaders who are raring to go. Yep. They got their Bibles, they got their plans, they got their strategy for reaching these communities. And sometimes they go into communities that are Latino communities or African American communities, and they're going to set up shop and they're going to do their church and all of that. And they haven't necessarily stopped to learn from the folks who've been there already. That's one piece of learning, I mean. Bro. But also, and I mean, some of us pay a lot of dues along the way, and I've certainly sat in my share of classes with never a white, only white faculty members, only white, denominational leaders. I've been in those spaces many, many years of my life. So I'm saying I paid a lot of dues. Yeah. So I feel like I can say whatever I want now. I'm over 60. I can what y'all going to say, what you're going to do. But I don't see white people paying that dues. I don't see white people sitting in spaces where they're in the minority, where they don't get deferred to, where they have to receive. So I would say for those young pastors, or maybe not all young, but for those pastors who are raring to go and work in those spaces, I say pay some dues where you're not in charge. It's hard.
That's a T-shirt, bro.
I mean, but it's hard. I mean, I have a friend who did consulting for a denomination, and it's a T-shirt. That was good.
Pay some dues where you're not in charge. That's crazy.